Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We are going to get started in just a moment, but we still have a few more people that are logging on. I'm going to give them a chance to get logged in and get in the meeting, and then we will get started. Tiny, if you could watch the waiting room for me and just let folks in if they sign in after we get started, could you do that, please? Still got a few people that are trickling in. Before I get going, someone that's on camera, can you just give me a thumbs up if you can see the PowerPoint? And okay, thank you. Thank you. One more moment to let a couple more folks in. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get started. We still have a few people that are trickling in, but I have about 6 minutes past the hour, so we'll go ahead and get started. So good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Those of you that may not know who I am, my name is Chad Allgood. I'm the Director of the Division of Early Childhood Care and Development, and we are one of the divisions at the Mississippi Department of Human Services. We are the division that administers the Child Care Development Fund program, also known as CCDF. We're meeting today to discuss the notice that we sent out last week regarding the child care payment program. We did notify everyone that we are putting a temporary pause in place. So what we're doing today is we're going to spend a couple of minutes at the beginning. I'm going to give kind of review what that means, give you some more information about what that means, what you can expect over the next couple of months. I'm going to give you some ways that you can stay updated on what we're doing, how we're monitoring the situation, et cetera. And then I'm going to give you all an opportunity to ask some questions if you do have questions. The reason why we did this town hall meeting is because we know that what we do here affects you all, and decisions that are made affect you all and greatly in certain circumstances. And we feel that it's important that when we take action such as this, that it's important that we make sure that you all have the right information and that you are given the opportunity to ask questions so that you get the correct information. Um, the Child Care Development Fund program, it's a complex program. There's a lot of moving pieces, and the subsidy program itself, it's complicated, and there's a lot of moving pieces that go with it. And as you can imagine, when we're looking at the number of children that we can serve and making sure that we're in alignment with our budget, that takes a lot of people, and that does take a lot of process. It is like I said, a pretty complex process. There's a lot of information that is out there. There's a lot of information that will continue to be out there regarding this process. Again, thank you all for joining us this morning as an opportunity to get the correct information. And I would just ask from everyone that as we move forward over the next couple of months, and as we monitor this situation, and as we take further steps to navigate through this time period, please do not spread misinformation. When you get questions from families, or when you get questions from other providers, if you get questions from the community, if it is not something that you have seen in writing from our office, it may or may not be true. And it is very important during this time that we're not spreading misinformation to create more undue panic. It's another reason why we're having the town hall today, to correct any information or to resolve any questions, that are out there. So if someone asks you a question and, you don't know for a fact that it is true, or if someone says something to you and it doesn't quite sound right, or if it's not something that has been sent out by our office and you need clarification, please contact our office and allow us to give you the correct information. Because right now there are people that are very nervous. There are people that are somewhat in panic mode, and I can understand that. I can completely understand that. Today, I hope to alleviate some of that panic, some of those concerns, although it will not alleviate all of the concerns that are out there. But the last thing that we need to do is create more panic when there's not a reason to panic. And so just again, I just urge everyone to make sure that when you're talking about this, or really anything that affects the CCDF program, just make sure that you have the correct information before you strike up conversations with other people. I think that's just being respectful, not only for my office and all of my people, but also for each other. During difficult times, especially like the pandemic, one of the things, one of the reasons that I think we were able to make it through the way that we did, is because we banded together, and we worked together to try to navigate through the process, because there was a lot of uncertainty then as well, and there's still uncertainty as it relates to the pandemic. So that being said, I'm going to get into some of the updates. We are going to give you some updated information. This town hall is going to follow the same type process that our other information sessions follow. We've got 350 plus people, going on 400 people on the call. When you do have questions about if you do have questions about anything that I've discussed, or questions, if there's a question about something that I have not discussed, please just put it in the chat. We will monitor the chat, and we will answer those questions when we get to the question portion of that. And again, just like I said, I know that this is a situation that has raised some alarm. I totally understand that, but I also just ask that with our comments and then with our questions that we be respectful of each other as well. Okay, so just to kind of reiterate what the process is going to be, what it's going to look like. We did send out notification with this information, but I want to talk through this also, and then again clarify any questions that may be a result of this. So as you all know, back during the pandemic period, actually starting in 2020 and then in 2021, states were given an unprecedented amount of funding from the federal government through the CARES Act, the CRSA Act, and the American Rescue Plan Act, represented the largest bulk of funding that was related to the pandemic. In total, just with the American Rescue Plan Act alone, Mississippi received $519 million. Of the relief money that we received, the largest bulk of the money that went to any one program was the Child Care Strong program. MDHS issued over $355 million directly to child care providers with the Child Care Strong grants. We used the rest of our pandemic funding in a variety of different ways to try to support childcare during the time period. We did several different programs. One of the other things that we did was we allocated a very large chunk of funding. It was upwards of almost $90 million to issuing more childcare vouchers, more childcare certificates. We saw that we had families that had a need. We had the funding to provide for that need, and so we did that. But we did notify everyone that the pandemic funds were in fact temporary, And that, like with the American Rescue Plan funding being the last pot of money that we had until September 30th of 2024, which was September of last year, to fully expend that money. I am happy to say that Mississippi did in fact use every penny of our relief money that we received. And that money went mostly to you all, whether it was the Child Care Strong funds. We also did a program where we provided direct incentives to teachers. We had a substitute teacher pool program that we put in place. And then again, we did increase vouchers. And I would also like to, just remind you all that we did these things as a result of things you all asked for. During the pandemic, we had the town halls and we asked y'all, what was it that you needed? And so these things, these programs that we put in place, these were things that you told us that you felt would be helpful to you all. And so we listened, and that's what we did. Now that we are outside of the pandemic funding period, again, all the funding had to be spent by September 30th of 2024, last year. We utilized all of that funding, but now we are back where we need to realign our service numbers with what our current budget can support. And our current funding is supplied in three ways predominantly. One is the largest chunk of money that we get is still from the federal government, from the CCDF program. So we still continue to receive federal dollars. Just because the relief dollars are not available anymore, the CCDF funding is still available, and we are still able to use that funding, which we are. Okay, it's not going anywhere. This pause is in no way a reflection of any issues with our regular CCDF funding. The pause simply has to do with the fact that we no longer have we used all of the relief money that we received. So we do still continue to receive our CCDF funds. Since 2023, MDHS has been transferring 30% of TANF money directly to child care. So this is something that we've already been doing, and it's something that we will that we have continued to do. 30% is the maximum allowed TANF amount that can be transferred directly to CCDF. When it transfers to CCDF, it assumes the rules of CCDF. So when we transfer TANF money into our CCDF program, we can use it for direct services, but we are still required to use 12% of any money that comes from TANF for the purpose of quality improvement. And that is federal law. That is something that we have no control over. So we are in fact using the TANF transfer. The third pot of money, or source of money that we have, is our state funding. We get just under $7 million from the state government that we utilize for direct services, so that we can draw down our full federal match with that. So we still have access to all of that funding. That funding is not going anywhere. We are still going to be issuing certificates, but it will be in alignment with that budget, with the budget that those three funding sources, the funding that those sources provide to us. So that being said, again, this is just an effort to realign back with what our normal budget can hold. I want to also stress this, just to make sure that this is understood. We knew that this was coming. We actually stated that the funding was temporary, and we stated that the funding would end in September of 2024. And I first stated this back in 2022. And we let this be known that this money was temporary, and that when the funding was used, that we would have to realign with our normal budget, our normal service numbers. So we did notify everyone in 2022, and then we did again in 2024. We also let everyone know that this was something that was going to be coming. So this is not something that we have just dropped on everyone out of nowhere. That information has been made available for the last 3 years. So again, in the interest of realigning with our budget, these are the actions that we are going to be taking. So we have 6 what we call their exempt populations that we will continue to accept applications. This means we will continue to accept new applications for these families and add a child for families that fall within these 6 exempt categories, and they're listed here. That includes families that are on the TANF program, families that are transitioning away from TANF. These are still the lower income families. We call these TCC. You may be familiar with that acronym, Transitioning Child Care. We're still going to be issuing we will still accept new applications for families that are providing foster care for children that are in the MDCPS foster care system. We will still be accepting applications from teen parents, from parents with special needs, and families with children that have special needs, deployed military families, and homeless families. So any families that log on to apply that fall within one of these categories, we will continue to accept their application. We will verify their eligibility, and we will issue certificates for these 6 populations as we always have, okay? Where the change comes in is for families that do not fall within these 6 categories. Any families that fall within these categories, we're going to place a temporary pause on accepting applications from families that are not a member of one of these categories. So that means new applications, and that also includes add-a-child applications. We will also continue to process any applications, and this includes families that are outside of those 6 categories that were submitted prior to the March 31st 5 p.m. deadline. So any families that have submitted applications up to this point, up to the March 31st deadline, we will continue, or we will process those applications. Now, I know right now that families are not allowed to upload documentation, but we are going to be reaching out to these families, and we will be working those applications, okay? So we're going to continue to do that. Also, as a reminder to you all, a child care certificate is valid for 12 months. Any current certificates that are in circulation, we will continue to honor that full 12 months, okay? We are not going to cut services in the middle of a certificate, okay? So any of your families that are not one of those priority categories, or I'm sorry, one of those accepted categories, that has a certificate right now, we will continue to pay for services for the full duration of what's on their certificate, okay? And again, that includes any of the eligible families that have applied prior to the deadline. So any of those that got their applications in by the March 31st deadline, we will process their applications, and they will be granted a full 12 months of service as well. All CCPP participating parents will receive a notice. This is the redetermination notice that y'all should be familiar with. They will continue to receive their redetermination notice 60 days prior to their annual redetermination date. Okay, so at the point that a certificate is about to that is about to expire, or 60 days from the expiration date, the families will continue to get those notices. We will process those redetermination applications to determine if that family has fallen into one of those 6 exempt categories. Okay, so if their eligibility, if that falls within one of the 6 categories that I mentioned prior, they will be granted a certificate. Okay, if through the redetermination process it is determined that they do not fall within one of those categories, there again will be a pause on continuing service just for that family. Okay, but again, remember, the pause is temporary. Okay, we're going to be monitoring this situation very closely. We want to lift this pause as soon as we possibly can. Okay. We are going to be monitoring it very closely. Probably every day, I would say we're going to be looking at our service numbers to determine when we are starting to realign with a number of certificates that we can serve with our current budget. Also, when families log on to the portal, if they do not fall in one of those 6 categories, they can enter their email address, and we will give them notification the day the pause is lifted and allow them to go in and submit their application. We will also provide notification to the public at large when the pause is lifted as well. A couple other things that I wanted to share with everyone. The pause will not affect any quality-related activities, okay? The following services are funded with quality money. And when I say funded with quality money, the money that we get from the federal government, we are required by federal law to spend 12% of all of the money that we get from the federal government on quality improvement. It cannot be used for direct services. That is federal law. I have no control over it. Nobody in this state has any control over it. The money that we get, 12% must be spent on quality activities. The following things are being funded using that 12% quality money. That includes all the training and coaching that you are receiving, and that may be from one of our coaches that are with DECCD. But that may include training that you may be receiving from one of our training partners or our partnering agencies. This includes the Mississippi Early Childhood Inclusion Center with the University of Southern Mississippi. This includes the Leadership Institute with the University of Mississippi and the North Mississippi Education Consortium. This includes any services that you may be getting through the resource and referral networks. As you all know, we've opened new sites. And this also includes Elevate, which is the quality support system. So again, all of the activities that are related to these services are funded with that 12%. We are not eating into the money for direct services to fund these activities. Okay. And again, quality funding cannot be used for direct services or vice versa. We do have a website where we have posted the information that I've shared today. Also, there are some facts. There are some frequently asked questions that are available on that webpage. So you can go there for updates and for more information. We will be updating that as well. And again, at the moment that we do lift the pause, we will be notifying everybody that the pause is lifted. Okay. So with that being said, I'm going to go back. Angela, was there anything that you can think of that that I did not mention before we start taking questions?
No, you're good.
Okay. Okay.
Go
ahead.
I was going to go to the first question, or
Sure. We did include the link. I have the link here, but then the link to the frequently asked questions page was also posted in the chat. So if y'all want to click there, bookmark it, and you can also find it on our website. So yeah, we can go with questions. Yeah.
The first question says, have parents also been informed?
Right. So again, as I said, when parents, when their redetermination notification goes out, they will receive notification through the system that their redetermination period is coming up. We are going to continue to process those applications to determine if those families fall within one of those categories to meet eligibility or not. We did not want to send out a blanket statement that said where no families are going to be eligible because, as you all know, family situations change sometimes, day to day. And so we want to make sure that we do our due diligence with making sure that any of the families that are coming up for redetermination may or may not still be eligible if they fall within one of those categories.
Will reimbursement continue to be paid based on enrollment?
Yes, we are not changing any of our reimbursement policies. We are not making any changes to that. We are going to continue to pay based on enrollment, not attendance, and there's no plan to switch back to paying by attendance. The paying by enrollment is a permanent policy that we put in place, and we have no intention of going back to paying by attendance. We will continue to pay by enrollment.
And the next question says, what about Child Protective Services?
So families that are in the foster care system, they are one of our exempt categories. So we will continue to serve or issue certificates for families that are in that population.
What processes will be put in place to determine when parents are homeless?
So go ahead. You can go ahead, Angela.
I can answer it if you'd like.
Sure.
For our homeless population, we currently accept referrals through shelters, and then also online. If a parent is homeless, they have the option to select that as a to notify our office, and the application would allow them to submit, and then we would discuss, those that will review that application for eligibility based off of what the parent submits in. So we do that currently, so that process will not change. So parents can notify us themselves. They do not have to be in a shelter. Um, this one is the same question you've already answered about parents being notified, but the other part of the comment was, since I have not had anyone panicking, I'm assuming not. Um, But like Chad said, we are wanting to make sure that we don't put parents in a panic, and they'll get their notice 60 days prior to. None of my certificates have an expiration date. Also, no date on the ledger sheets. How will I know when these expire? So if you will go into your provider portal, you have a list of all your families that come up for redetermination. If you click on that reports tab, it will give you a list of your parents that's coming up for redetermination, and you can keep up with it that way. So that's how most providers look at their list of active certificates and redetermination. The next question said, will your agency be responsible for notifying the parents about this pause so that there is clarity about what is about to happen? Will you be sending out end dates to us so that we will know how to go forward with determining how we will operate as the changes take place?
We will take steps to make sure that our families are informed of information as it pertains to them. Yes.
This was a comment. If majority of my parents does not fall in this category, I will lose most of my children.
Again, when we, again, we're not cutting certificates in the middle of service. We continue to honor the full 12 months of the certificate. We are going to do everything that we can to try not to disrupt, our current, as many of our current vouchers as we possibly can. But we had to start somewhere with the process of realigning our service numbers, because again, failure to realign with what our current budget could support would in fact lead us to a situation where we would run out of funding for direct services, which would mean we would issue no payments for months. And I don't think anybody on this call wants that. We certainly don't want that, and I don't think any of you want that either. So I do understand that this is going to affect some families. It is unfortunate that it's going to affect those families, but we put this process in place, and again, we're going to be monitoring this very closely so that we disrupt as few families as we possibly can.
Tab will be notified when the parent certificate's on pause. Will we be notified when the certificate is on pause? Does this mean we won't receive any funding for them while they are on this pause? And if so, what is your suggestion to receive tuition from these families? Or did I hear something wrong?
So families, again, we're going to pay payments as long as their certificate is active. At the point that any of families that are not in these 6 exempt categories, at the point that their certificate expires, if we are still under a pause, then correct, we will have to stop paying families that are that do not have an active certificate. So that's that is true to that point. In terms of collecting tuition, you have the option of moving to, requesting those families pay for full services. Beyond that, I can't really say that there's many other options that I can see available to you. And I don't know if there was something else with the question, Angela, that had a few parts.
No, that was the last part of that.
Yep.
The next question says, can we get some of that money for field trips once children are out of school?
I'm not certain with that question. I'm not certain. The money that we give you all is just, it's based on your enrollment numbers. We do cover what, registration fees, is that right? So we
Okay,
cover
registration fees.
registration fees. Um, you know, if you do field trips, et cetera, if that's part of your program, then the funding, would be the funding that we give you, you could use that towards any activities, including field trips, et cetera, that you do at your center.
Will the school be notified on the pause, and how soon will we know?
We sent the when you say the school, so we sent the notification out to providers, and then again, we will notify you all as soon as we lift the pause.
The families do not fall into the category, will we lose our students?
If the families, if their certificate has expired and they do not fall under one of these categories and they're at redetermination, we determine that they do not fall within one of these categories, and their voucher certificate does expire, that is correct. We will not be able to issue payments for families outside of these 6 categories until the pause is lifted. Our hope is that, because we're doing this gradually and we're not cutting all off at one time, that we will, we'll see as minimal number of as possible of families that service is disrupted before we can lift the pause and start re-accepting applications for families outside of these categories.
Can you explain who falls under TANF?
So TANF is the temporary and needy families. That is a separate program outside of DECCD. That is a program families apply for TANF, and that's through the MDHS county offices. If a family applies for TANF and they are accepted for TANF and they have a child that is eligible to attend childcare, then they would receive a certificate as part of that process. But the process for screening families for TANF does not take place in DECCD. That takes place at our county offices through our Economic Assistance Division.
What has MDHS done to secure additional funds?
Well, as of right now, I feel like we have maximized all available outlets. We received the full allocation of our federal money through the Child Care Development Fund program. We use all of the money that we receive through our state general appropriation for direct services so that we can pull down the full amount. We are transferring the full TANF 30%. I will also say though, we did provide some information about when this would occur, the level of funding that it would probably take to keep this going. And we have made that number, available, but it is a very large number and the ask was a big ask. So we're still waiting to see what other opportunities there may be. We are still waiting on information from the federal government on what future CCDF allocations will be. We have not received notice. We have not received notice beyond September 30th. We do know that we have we call it fiscal year 2025 funding through September 30th, and usually around this time, the federal government notifies us what future funding will be. But to that end, there really are no other federal options available to us for child care services, and as far as it pertains to the Child Care Development Fund.
Just to confirm, my redetermination application submitted before 3/31 at 5 o'clock will still be eligible outside of being in the 6 categories.
If you submitted your application by the deadline and we received it, and you meet the eligibility outside of the 6 categories, then yes, we will issue a certificate to you.
Had a mother fill out her renewal that her email stated due by April 2nd. She had no idea the last day was March 31st. She was denied and has one special needs child. She has two, and her copay is $0. She is in a panic.
So I would ask that parent contact us individually and let us see what's going on so we can, because if the parent does in fact have a child with special needs and has the documentation to show that eligibility, then we will process that certificate, but that parent needs to contact us directly.
Is this only going to last for about 2 months?
I really can't say how long the pause is going to last. We do have a ballpark number. With our current federal, or with our current budget, we have estimated that we can accommodate paying about $12 million in certificates per month. Okay. I'm hesitant to say how many certificates that is because there's a lot of factors. We have full-time and part-time certificates. Our certificates vary in terms of the amount by the age category. We also have, a certificate for children that have special needs. So I'm really hesitant to say how many certificates that is. We have a rough estimate, but we need to get our monthly payout down to about $12 million a month.
Did you get input from the State Early Childhood Advisory Council or any other organization in childcare in making this decision?
We talked with CCAC and with other organizations. We've been talking with them about the relief funding since the beginning of this. We have been extremely transparent about how much money we got. We've been extremely transparent about where the money has gone and how long we have to spend it. To be frank, y'all, there really is nothing else that could be done aside from us receiving more funding. There's really not, I don't know what else other organizations could have done. We have notified everyone about the nature of this funding being temporary, what the ramifications would be when the funding expired or when it was spent. In our case, it was spent prior to the expiration date, which is good. But beyond that, there really is not, other than securing more funding in some fashion, there's really not much else that could be done at this point. Again, until we get back down to a level of service that our current budget can support.
What about parents that's disabled?
So if you have a family, I've answered this question. So if you have a parent that has special needs, and again, they can provide proof of that, then we will issue a certificate to them.
What about families who have received funding before but were denied?
I would need a little bit more clarification. I'm assuming that this is a family that was up for redetermination. If we have any families that are in that process and they go through redetermination, they were denied and they're not certain why, or they need some more guidance, please have them contact us. Okay. That is the best thing that y'all can do, is have them contact us directly. So one of our eligibility folks can work directly with that family to figure out what's going on, determine if they are eligible for services, and we can get them the assistance that they need if they fall under the current eligibility requirements.
Hold on just a second. How do we get in provider portal for a list of parents coming up for redetermination? So when you go into your portal where you complete your ledgers, and on the left-hand side is a tab that says reports. You go into that every month when you complete your ledgers. So it's that same portal. The next question, why wasn't low-income families in this category?
while weren't low-income families,
Yes.
low-income families are in this category. That is our TANF families and are transitioning away from TANF assistance. Those are the families that meet eligibility under TANF or transitioning away from TANF. Those are our families with the lowest income in the state.
Do, how do we expect for centers to hire new teachers to meet expectations for Elevate when funds are cut by DECCD?
So let me be clear about this also. There are no additional staffing requirements for Elevate aside from what licensing requires. So it is your responsibility to meet licensing standards. If you can't, then you're not adhering to what is required to hold a license. Elevate imposes no additional staffing on you all to be successful in the Elevate program.
We appreciate all that you do and all that you have done to support us, but please be clear and honest with us about what is about to take place. Also, will terminations be sent out at least 2 weeks prior to the end dates?
So I appreciate the comment. We are going to give you all information as we have. Again, that's why we're holding the information or this virtual town hall today. I imagine that we will, as we progress forward, if it looks like the pause is going to take a little longer, then we hope it doesn't. We hope it lasts as short as possible. But I imagine we'll probably continue to have our virtual town halls with you all just to kind of keep you updated on what's going on. This is the same thing that we did during the pandemic. And we will continue to hold these meetings and answer questions and as the situation progresses. And then what was the other part of the question, Angela?
It was also, will terminations be sent out at least 2 weeks prior to the end date? Well, actually, 6.
So all notifications, all of the correspondence that we typically use will continue. We're not going to stop any of the additional any of the correspondence that you normally get.
Okay. And Ted, can I add to that?
Sure, sure.
And the terminations, you will get a 60-day notice for that. Okay. What is your best guess on how long this will be? I think you just answered that. Is there any way we could request more funding for the state?
There are, I do believe there are some opportunities. I feel like, MDHS, we've made those needs clear. To keep, we made it pretty clear. We gave a dollar amount. Again, it was a large ask. And we acknowledged that it was a large ask from our legislature. So I think, honestly, I mean, the best thing that you all can do is make sure that people understand how important childcare is to our state. Talk to folks that make decisions about funding. Be respectful, be kind when you talk to them, but explain to them what your programs do, how you keep working families working, and also how you're educating our most precious resource, our children. Make sure they understand what your needs are. Y'all, speaking up for early childhood education is not something that just lies within DECCD. Every single person that's on this call, you have that capability to speak up for what the needs are of early childhood education. And that's not, it's not really that's not a conversation that DCCD needs to have in silent, by itself. We can say this is what our program is, this is what our program needs. But as far as advocating, for more funding, we really, we're not allowed, we can't do that. The only thing we can do is talk about, what our program does, how we can, how it does support parents. But y'all, I think more valuable than my voice or Angela's voice or members of MDHS, more valuable than our voice is y'all's voices. Y'all's voices. We have 423 people on this call. Every single person that's on this call needs to make sure that you're talking about what you do and how what you do is vital to your communities and vital to the future of our state. So that's the best advice that I can give you, is that, you do your part to speak up, and make sure that people understand how important childcare is, and that we do need to be considering how we can invest. Now, again, it's a complex issue, and childcare is very expensive, as you all know. But the best way to do that is for us all to come to the table and try to come to um, a solution that we can in fact put in place.
Just in case all money stopped through CCPP, what can we expect from CCPP? Will daycare continue to receive funds?
So all funding is not stopping. We're just having to, we're just having to just make some changes to the number of families that are currently on the program. We're not stopping funding. We're going to continue to issue payments. We just have to slowly get back to a place that's in line with our budget.
This is a comment. It's already a struggle. We're going to take a big hit. Parents don't want to pay their co-pays. The next question, is it possible to utilize the 12% that was allotted for quality improvement for technology within the schools that are being served as well?
No, we cannot purchase equipment we can't use quality funding necessarily to purchase. I'm not really sure what kind of technology you're referring to. Like I cannot purchase computers for childcare programs. I cannot purchase iPads for you all. But there are plans as we move into year 2 of our Elevate system to tie some incentive payments to the year 2 badges. And if you receive funding through that, you could use that money, for any technology, whatever your technology needs might be. I mean, you can also use any of the funding that you get through your regular certificate reimbursement payments for whatever your technology needs are. I will say, in terms of that, if you're looking to technology, if it's something to do with your business plan or whatever, we have a team of coaches that can provide that to you. They can help you with your budget needs. They can help you do a breakdown of what your expenses are, what your income is, help you put together a budget. And if you don't have one, I really do advise that you look at putting a budget in place as soon as possible. It's just the best way that you can be prepared for financial anything that might possibly come up.
We have this kind of question. I think you've answered it, but I'll let you do it one more time to address it. It's in here several times. Is there a chance that you will have the funds before all of our certificates expire?
So I don't anticipate the pause lasting so long that all of the current families that fall outside of these categories their certificates will expire. I don't expect that. I expect hopefully we will be able to lift the pause prior to that. Again, we knew this was coming. The plan that we put in place was to try to not disrupt the reimbursement payments as little as possible, to keep the payments going.
What is the requirement for special needs? Currently, right now, we do verification of special needs by SSI letter. So if you have a family that is receiving SSI, then that would be the approval, the way that we determine eligibility for special needs. Redetermination parents were not notified of the changes 60 days before the changes, and they were denied new certificates with no warning, and they can't afford to pay for 3 children. Any other options?
So again, the best thing to do, I'm going to say this one more time, and then we're just at 8 minutes, so we need to move on to questions that I have not addressed, or questions that are of a nature that I have not addressed. By the way, we are recording this, and we will put this recording up on our website, so you can go back and watch it. So the best thing for families to do that have experienced an issue is to reach out directly to us, allow one of our eligibility folks to work directly with that family to figure out what's going on. That's just the best, that's going to be the best solution, by and large.
Um, let's see.
And also, Angela, any other questions specifically about eligibility as it pertains to a parent? Let's move on because again, we are coming at time. I want to address other questions. Again, y'all, if you have situations pertaining to parents, contact us directly. Okay. We can there are a lot of different components that we have to look at with an application. That's just simply the best way that we're going to be able to figure out what's going on and get that family help.
Chad, this is a question. Fiscal year funding for 2024-2025 was already approved. Why are the certificates being affected this period now instead of the 2025-2026 funding?
I'm not really sure what you mean by approved. I'm not really sure what you mean by the term approved. We receive an allocation, but there was no relief money in our 2025 allocation. Okay. We received the last pot of money, which was the American Rescue Plan money back in 2022. We received that as a bulk of funding, and we were told we had until September 30th of 2024 to spend it. We do have our current 2025 allocation, and this whole process is to get in alignment with what that allocation is, because the 2025 allocation does not include any additional money beyond what the regular CCDF allocation is. By the way, we are still waiting on the federal government to let us know what the full 2025 allocation is. Now we continue to be allowed to draw down, and we're assuming that it's the same as what our 2024 allocation was. So I'm not really sure what you mean by approved, but we do have access to our 2025 money and we are using it. But y'all have to understand the combination of the three sources of funding that I mentioned, CCDF, the TANF transfer, and the money that we get from the state, it's still not enough to service the number of children that we have on the program right now, because we used a very large portion of our relief money, about $90 million, to open up those vouchers. And, you know, I feel like we did exactly what we needed to do with that money. We had a families in need. We had the funding to issue the certificates. So we did so. We don't have that additional funding anymore. So we're going to continue to serve as many families as we possibly can, but we've got to be financially responsible. Or like I said, if we fail to come in alignment with our current budget, we will run out of money and we won't be able to issue any payments. And I definitely do not want to run into that situation.
Chad, this one right here, can you clarify? We're required to follow policies that restrict certain days off to keep our vouchers and earn specific badges to remain in the program, only to now be told that we may not receive vouchers at all in the future.
Okay, so again, we're not cutting certificates. Okay, we're not stopping this. This pause is temporary. We are not changing the way that we're not changing eligibility. We're not changing our payment processes. We're not changing any of that, y'all. We are just simply having to look at slowly reducing the number of families of the number of children that are currently on the program because our funding levels are lower. Okay, it has nothing to do with policy change, none of that. As the certificates that you do have, you are expected to follow child care payment program policy to continue to receive those payments. If we ran into a situation where there were no child care certificates in circulation, there would be no need to follow policy because we would not be giving you any funding. The funding that you all received is tied to policy. So as long as you continue to receive that funding, you do have to continue to do the policy. I'm not sure why badges was thrown in there. There's nothing pertaining to badges. The only thing pertaining to badges is that you do need to earn that first badge to continue to participate in the child care payment program. But that really doesn't have anything to do with days off, etc.
Someone stated, can you please repeat the comment again about funds to CCPP after the end of September? Everyone can call their federal senators and congressmen to make sure funds are allocated.
So I would just say, usually by now we would have received notification from the federal government what our federal allocation is. And what an allocation is it tells Mississippi how much of the total child care development fund pot that's available, what portion will go to Mississippi. We still have not seen that amount for 2025. Now, I see no reason why CCDF funding is going to go away or be cut. But y'all do know that there's a lot of attention right now on governmental spending, and at the federal level, there's a lot of attention on being efficient, et cetera. So again, it's just important that y'all do speak about why childcare is very important, and why it's very important that we continue to have funding for early childhood education.
Um, they all seem to be the same questions that you've answered.
Again, we're just at about time. If you do have questions that are pertaining to a specific family situation, the best thing to do is to have the family contact our office. We do have folks that will work diligently to figure out what's going on. If the family does qualify for a certificate, we will issue them. We're going to do everything we can to continue to issue as many certificates as possible. But, and again, do try to not disrupt the process any more than we have to. I did see a comment about us hurting childcare programs with the additional funding. I don't really understand that comment. And then there was talk about the teacher incentives, et cetera. So let me make this clear. All of the programs that we put in place with the American Rescue Plan money, we did so in consultation with you all. Okay. We didn't do anything without asking, did you feel like this would be something that would be helpful or not? And I do understand that in certain circumstances that you may not see that the programs that we put in place were helpful, but we did receive a lot of feedback that the programs that were put in place by the American Rescue Plan money and the other money was incredibly helpful. In total, during the pandemic, this division sent out over $700 million to child care programs. Okay, that's more money than we've ever issued out. All right. We can't make everyone happy. I acknowledge that. You may not all see the benefit in all the programs that we do. I understand that too. But I will say this, my staff work very hard to support you all. And, I understand that everyone has different needs and, all of that. But I would just ask that you all think about what the bigger picture is for early childhood education. Okay. And also I want to say something else about the quality system and what we're doing related to quality standards. If we want to see an increase in investment in early childhood education, we have to stop fighting against adopting some quality standards. Okay. People that make decisions regarding funding want assurances that if they're going to invest in early childhood education, that it is going to be good early childhood education. Okay. The Elevate system was designed with you all. Okay. We went around, we showed what the system was going to be. We asked for input. We're going to continue to ask for input as we continue forward. Y'all need to start thinking in terms of what early childhood is in Mississippi as a whole, and not just be a voice for your individual programs, but be a voice for each other. Until you all start to do that, childcare is going to be seen a very certain way. And we need to change that narrative. We need to change the way that people look at what we do. I know y'all all work very, very hard with what you do. I know you bust your tails every single day to serve your families. I used to be a preschool teacher. I used to be a child care director. I've been there myself. I know how hard it is. I know how hard you work. There's a lot of things that early childhood education needs right now. There's a lot of needs. Funding is probably priority number one, okay? Um, that being said, we did put a lot of funding from the pandemic into early childhood. It would have been wonderful and amazing if that level of funding could have continued, but it didn't, okay? The funding was pulled back, and now we're having to make some changes as a result of that funding. The only thing that we can continue to do is, again, speak about the importance of early childhood education, not just for working families, but also for our workforce of tomorrow. Y'all have to advocate for early childhood education, okay? We will continue to do everything that we can to support y'all. We will continue to keep the lines of communication open. But blaming me and blaming this division for the shortfalls of our early childhood system is not fair. There's only so much that our division can do, okay? And we're going to continue to do that. And we're going to continue to do that in partnership with you all. We're going to continue to engage you all directly for your ideas on how to make things better. As we continue forward with quality standards, we're going to continue to let y'all help us design what that looks like. But blaming us for the bigger picture of why early childhood education, these bigger problems, one of which it does come down to funding, that does not help anybody. It doesn't help anybody. We have to start thinking about what our needs are, how we can work to better meet those needs, and stop pointing fingers at each other and blaming each other for the bigger issues that we should all be working together to help change. And it's not just change for our programs. Childcare programs are absolutely essential to this state. But we all know that at the end of the day, what we want, or what we should all want, is what's best for our children. And I know that that's what you all want. So I just ask that as we move forward, as we go into this time period, again, we're going to be watching this very, very closely. We're going to be doing everything we can to open the certificates back up as soon as we possibly can. I just ask that you all, again, don't spread misinformation. If you're not sure about something, ask. You can email me if you want to. I would much rather you email me and ask a question than be out there in the dark or uncertain, okay? But just like with the pandemic, the best way for us to get through these next few months is to continue to work together, make sure we communicate what our needs are, and not point fingers at each other, okay? That's all I ask. So listen, I appreciate you all. We are past time. We do have the questions that we are in the chat that are being asked. If there are questions that I was not able to get to, the website that was right here, let me put it back up for y'all. Right here, the mdhs.ms.gov, the post about the CCPP. Thanks, Claire. I appreciate that. So the link that Claire just put in the chat, we will review your questions, and if there are questions that I didn't get to or that we didn't get answered, we will add those to the facts page, the frequently asked questions page. Okay. So y'all keep bookmark that page if you can. We'll continue to put updates on that. And listen, I appreciate y'all too. I know this was not a fun time. But I promise y'all, we're doing everything we can to try to make this time period as short as possibly can. Okay. I thank y'all all for all the hard work that you're doing. Y'all are awesome. Keep being awesome, and we will be in touch soon. Okay. Y'all take care. Bye.